everybody. I'm going to call this meeting of the School Facility Utilization Task Force to order. It is 7:03 p.m. I appreciate everybody coming here today. I did not add an agenda item to adopt the agenda, so I'm just going to open up the floor really quickly, if people don't mind, to make sure that everybody's okay with what we're talking about tonight. If you have anything you would like to add to the agenda that's not available, I would be open to hearing it.
Yes. If we could possibly discuss the format listed in the sample provided by SPA last time on the report for the Montoursville Area School District. We could just discuss their format and how it would apply to New Hartford briefly.
Does everybody want to discuss that tonight?
If we have time. I wouldn't lead out with that.
Okay.
Okay.
I will make the communications that we've received so far are part of the meeting packets. I will just give a quick summary of what we've gotten. Somebody thoughtfully sent us some background information on the previous effort from 10 years ago with a bunch of data and statistics. So cannot remember your name, but thank you so much for sending that article to make sure that the task force knows that. I'm sorry?
Teresa Campbell.
Thank you, Teresa. We also had a request to evaluate the meeting time tonight. I would like to propose that as we as a task force, we have an agenda item tonight to talk about the way we're going to operate. And so I would like to have us raise that discussion regarding what time we want to have these meetings as part of that. If there are no objections to that. Okay. And then I probably won't share this moving forward, but we are getting some cold outreach from businesses looking to help us with this process. So if anybody wants to follow up on those, please let me know. I will probably not be engaging with those pieces.
I didn't hear the first part. You're saying
We've gotten some cold outreach from businesses trying to sell us things as we go through this process. So I probably won't be commenting on that moving forward, but just for the sake of transparency, know that people are really happy to take more of our money to help us with this.
Excuse me, it's very hard to hear you. You're talking so fast. I can barely hear what you're saying.
Okay, I will try to slow down. I am very nervous. So everybody, you are not familiar with me. My name is Kristen Young. This acoustics in here are not great. I will do the best that I can to slow down, but please tell me if I'm talking too fast, or please tell me if you need me to repeat something. I'm very happy to do so, and I will do my best to talk as best I can or repeat things that might be quiet from other task force members. Thank you.
Could we add for the record that we have one absence tonight?
Yes, we do. From a task force perspective, we are all here and present, with the exception of Carrie Guilfoyle, who unfortunately was not able to make it tonight as her daughter had to go compete in the diving competition that got moved to tonight. So congratulations to Carrie's daughter. I hope she has a successful meet tonight. Go Highlanders. Slower. And loud. Loud, okay. Thank you so much. I am going to move on to the School Facility Utilization Task Force Chair's report. I just want to give a quick update on the work that has been completed since we met a few weeks ago. So the biggest item that has happened is that we have conducted facility tours, both for SPA has gone through all the facilities, as well as all the task force members who are able have been through all of the 3 schools. I want to thank Jeff Souza, Mike Lynch, Amy Kelly, and all of the team for being so welcoming and letting us into every nook and cranny in the schools, including the basements, which I hope to never go into again. We have an agenda item later on tonight for Michelle from SPA to give us a little bit of a preliminary overview of what they've seen so far. So at that point in time, my recommendation would be that for the task force members who want to share some of their observations from the tours, that we include that as part of the conversation then, so we can have a good conversation about that. So everybody feel okay with that?
Yes.
Yep. Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. I also just want to note that I'll usually read this as a topic. And so we did confirm that the task force is subject to FOIA. So just to be very clear for everybody here, what we know from that is that, again, all of our meeting agendas and minutes will be posted publicly. We will not be having any meetings. What you see in public is what you will get from this perspective. So just know that that is the case. There's not really any discussion happening behind the scenes regarding this. So please let us know if you have any questions about that, but that's an update for you guys. The next thing that I want to go ahead. Yes.
So the notion there, so there's a balance here, transparency versus speed. So the notion, as Kristen said, because of FOIA and the desire to have full transparency everyone involved, that means that we're not meeting between meetings. There's not broad discussions happening over email between meetings. And so again, we're promoting transparency and allowing that to happen. The trade-off for everyone here is that in the community, we can't move as quickly because we discuss here, we're all together. We aren't discussing broadly over email. And so there'll be times when we're discussing things that frankly feel administrative or I might say boring, but we aren't able to do that outside of these meetings. Just making clear that's the explicit trade-off, and again, promoting transparency and having these meetings happen here so everyone can see what's happening. So hopefully that's clear in terms of what Kristen said and the trade-off we're making to ensure that the transparency and engagement is possible.
Thank you, John. The next thing that I want to talk about is just some process updates. So as part of the meeting minutes, we will share out a document that we put together that I've been working on that just outlines the procedures and operations that we will follow as a task force. The task force members have all had a chance to look at it. I would entertain a motion for us to discuss adopting this document so that we can discuss some outstanding questions that are related to the document if anybody's.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Great, thank you so much. I will, in terms of the document, just for context for the folks in the audience, what the document covers is what is the purpose of the task force, what is the role of the task force, what decisions can we make, what other things, what cannot we make, as well as rules of operations, how we will conduct the meetings, whether or not we public comment, and so on and so forth. So again, once we resolve some of the issues that we want to resolve tonight, I will publish this to the website so everybody can see it. If you have any questions, we'll go on from there. So with that, let's move to discussion.
I have quite a number of items.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. The first one's an easy one. In the first paragraph, third line down, to help share the future, should it be to help shape the future?
Sure.
Right? Isn't that what it should be?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's under the purpose statement. Also under the purpose statement, I find that it's a little vague on the recommendation part of it. It says the task force will recommend potential paths forward for our school district. So I think we need to add some language as to what would those potential recommendations be, which we kind of discussed in the previous meeting was recommendations may include the future utilization of the 3 school facilities, any desired renovations or expansions, and or construction of new school facilities. I think we need to add that to our purpose, not just we're going to make recommendations.
Yeah. I don't have any objections to that. Is there any other discussion for anybody?
I'd be happy to give this to Elizabeth after so she can keep up with her notes. And make recommendations should be to the Board of Education, not just the school district. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, with not the intention of this to read that it would be recommendations to the school district. The process will be that we make a recommendation to the Board of Education, but
Right.
I will update that.
Okay. Paragraph 4, in turn, the task force responsibility is to, and I was just wondering if those bullets are kind of redundant, since they are kind of discussed up above in our role. The task force role, review and question assumptions, identify gaps or additional analyses needed, evaluate implications across educational quality, community impact, and fiscal sustainability. And I think those are all kind of talked about already up above under our role. I'll give you guys a little bit of time to look at them if you want.
I don't think all of them. I mean, definitely the last point, translate technical findings into clear, accessible information for decision makers. definitely is redundant of the last bullet point of the role section, so I do agree with that. I think when you were thinking review questions and assumptions, Kristen, where were we thinking that from the public, from the study results, just in general?
Truly, I would say anything. Our own assumptions that are raised by the public, assumptions that are raised by any of the stakeholders that we're talking to. Our purpose is we're on a fact-finding mission. And so it shouldn't just be if we're uncomfortable with what somebody is saying or
Right.
don't understand it, we should be questioning those assumptions.
Yeah, but up above it says, ask critical questions and identify gaps to ensure comprehensive evaluation. I mean, I think that covers review and question assumptions and identify gaps or additional analyses needed.
If everybody feels like they understand what the purpose is just by the first 5 bullets, I'm happy to make amendments and then this is.
I just wanted to be concise for people to read, because there's a lot of words in it. You know what I mean? It's pretty long, it's pretty lengthy.
The original purpose of that point section, but the interim of the 4 bullets was to clarify more toward the SBA role, and then building on the SBA role, what the task force responsibility is. It may still be redundant, but again, I think this got moved down from where it was as part of the previous paragraph to clarify SBA versus task force. But then we have below the task force is versus is not. So it can go either way, but that's just the background of how this text ended up where it is.
I just think it's redundant. With the translate, I'm not sure that we should be translating technical findings. I think that we should just let the minutes and the materials speak for themselves. I don't know why we would need to translate. At the end of all of this, when we are making a recommendation, maybe we can make a summary when we make our recommendation to the Board of Ed. But I don't know about translating technical findings. I apologize, I said I have a lot of stuff.
No, this is why, unfortunately for everybody who's here, this is part of the work. We are a new body and we don't have any governing documents that are like just created out of thin air. And so just wanted to give us a framework for working on. So.
And again, we can't do this over email or via a shared document as you might do as part of your work given FOIA. So here we are discussing administrative details that are important.
Does anybody have any objections? Do you see any risk to taking these bullets out?
Nope.
Okay.
I prefer to see them like that, like it's clearer than just in one paragraph.
Okay.
So that you don't know, I keep in mind that just like there are so many different types of students, there are also many different types of people in the audiences. So it is better to have everything more clear.
Do you feel like that the 2 sets of bullets help with clarity?
Yes. Yes.
Any further discussion on that?
I continue to say, I think they say the same thing.
Okay.
I'm going to continue on with under our approach. The 3rd bullet, this is on page 2. Ensure each board contributes their expertise, educational needs and quality, synergies, analyses, as well as grant funding opportunities, parenthesis, Board of Ed, facility reuse options in both repurposing and maintenance costs, Board of Selectmen, and financial implications, funding approaches, sources and constraints, Board of Finance. When it first says ensure each board, I was a little confused by this. Are you talking about the full boards, the full Board of Selectmen, the full Board of Finance, the full Board of Ed? Or are you talking about the task force member from these boards will contribute their expertise? And if so, if you're saying it's the individual members, I can't speak for my whole board on this task force. So I was confused by that bullet.
The purpose of this bullet to me is to represent that we specifically pulled together expertise and stakeholders from different boards across the town that have various responsibilities. So I would hope that as those of us on the Board of Ed act as liaisons between this task force and the Board of Ed in terms of work that we may need to do, that the people from the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen would also operate in that same capacity should those questions arise. For example, with the Board of Selectmen, we talked a little bit about this in the past, but I'll reread it. Our limit in terms of the task force right now and what we can recommend to the Board of Ed is regarding whether or not the schools will be using the buildings. I expect there to be community questions regarding if the schools are not using the buildings, what would the buildings be used for? In which case I would be like the Board of Selectmen, I would expect would be taking up that mantle in terms of carrying on that conversation or figuring out how to address those questions as they come up.
So you expect the individual boards to be meeting and making some decisions and recommendations to this task force?
Not to this task force, I think that the purpose of this task force is accountability to the town.
Sorry, I'm just gonna interrupt you for a second. I do agree with Alicia that the distinction that it should be the task force board members or the task force members contribute their expertise from, it's funneling into this, which is why it's broken up, like there's people representing each part of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for this purpose, for the language, it should be like the representatives of each board. Because you're gonna want Board of Selectmen expertise coming in to this, because they're not the whole board. And then just like Board of Finance, it's two, then three, and then community.
I would say something, each board, each task member, each contributing board's task member may contribute additional information, because I cannot speak for my full board, and I don't know that we want to stop a process for me to have a meeting with my board to make a recommendation. Same thing with the Board of Finance. We can't, it's almost like a rat chasing its tail, right? Yeah, there you go.
I understand what you're saying, and if you read it that way, then you're correct. But it seems like what you're trying to say, Kristen, the way I read it was that this board is convened with a number of representatives from a number of groups in town, representing in some ways slightly different interests, and those interests are coming together on this task force. That's the way I read that. So if the wording isn't quite
When I
right.
went back and reread it, I'm like, does she mean I was confused.
Yeah.
The board?
Right.
Or,
Samantha's little tweak right at the beginning of that sentence might have solved it if you could repeat what you said.
What did I say?
roll back.
I know, right? To ensure that each, hold on, task force member,
Representing,
representative,
task
or
force members,
liaison, something like
representing the
that.
various boards.
Thanks, Penny.
You're welcome, Samantha.
Teamwork right there.
Does that work?
Because then it kind of covers all those bases right there. The rest of it, I think, is fantastic.
I will just add something that we don't need to change this, but I'll just add something about the Board of Selectmen's, what we do. We superintend the concerns of the town. And that also includes looking at financial implications. Many times people are making recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for outside of budget costs, and then we go to the Board of Finance with our recommendations and then go forward. So we also have a role in the financial implications, but I'm not suggesting a change for the wording of how it's divvied up between the three boards.
So we're not going to take questions right now. There's a part in the agenda for public comment, and we'll take questions then.
And I was curious, balance of thoroughness and timeliness at the bottom, need for, balancing thoroughness with the need for timely recommendations. I was just wondering why we have that in there. I mean, I think the process is going to have to be the process. Obviously, we want to get through this as quickly as possible, but I wouldn't want to shortcut anything because we need to make timely recommendations.
I agree with that. To me, it was more important to focus on, like, we need to balance the thoroughness while we're trying to stick to the schedule that we've laid out.
Something about the chair's responsibilities, right? I don't agree that the chair may periodically summarize. I don't like the word summarizing. I do think the chair needs a defined role, though.
Okay.
So definitely prepare meeting agendas, maybe with input from SPA, because SPA is our consultant in helping us along in this process, and facilitate discussions during the task force meetings is definitely a role that the chair has. But I wasn't quite keen on how the chair may periodically summarize areas of agreement, outstanding questions, and next analytical steps to ensure shared understanding. And I wasn't keen on that sentence.
So the way that I was thinking about that was just, again, in terms of moving the meetings along when we are at the end of the section, like restating my understanding while we're all together, so that we can, again, know where we all stay in the same place. That's all I'm trying to do. Or if somebody asks a question during the question and answer period, if it's something that is factual that I can answer, that I would take the lead on answering that, so that, again, if there are things that we are all on the same page about, then I can take a step there and lead the charge in answering that. I would not want that to supersede anybody, like, speaking up and saying that I'm wrong about something. I'm very happy to hear that I'm wrong about something, especially live, because I don't want to sit on a mistake and have it fester. So that's my intention for that. Again, it's just sort of a point of order in terms of trying to move the business along, as well as if there are questions that come up. If one person attends a meeting and asks a question, another person comes to another meeting and asks the next question, I would take the lead on summarizing what we've already discussed for that point in that way. So that was my intention for that. But I'm happy to hear feedback if that's not appropriate.
Just making sure that we stay on task and move into the next step.
I hesitate to keep going on. Let's see, what was community engagement? Community engagement is intended to inform understanding, surface priorities, I don't know what that was, and highlight concerns, not to serve as a vote on specific options. And I don't think that sentence was really worded well. I don't know what the true meaning, the intent was, is we want to hear, we want community engagement. And so I wrote something, the task force seeks to ensure that community perspectives will be taken into consideration when developing any recommendations.
Any objections to making that change?
No, that's very concise.
Okay. And again, I'll give this to Elizabeth. The last paragraph, final decisions rest with the respective elected boards and any applicable town referendum processes, with the task force role being to ensure all decision makers have accurate, comprehensive information to serve the best interest. I think the task force role, definitely, we can maybe put out get together and put out information for the public if we needed to do a mailer. We did the mailer before on back in 2016. But the final decisions rest with the respective elected boards, I think is too vague. The decision to close a school can only come from the BOE. A decision to renovate a school would be a recommendation from maybe from the BOE to the BOS to BOF. And that could entail a town meeting, not necessarily a referendum. A decision to construct a new school would need all three plus a town meeting and or referendum. And generally, the BOS usually selects the process if we're going to put something before the town.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be a referendum or is it going to be a town meeting?
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think we need to put referendum and or town meeting in there,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what the recommendation may be.
Yeah, I'm happy to make the amendment regarding the applicable town, process, and that's why I was sort of like paucity, because I wasn't sure what all of the options were there. Again, I think what I'm trying to make clear here is that this task force is not a decision-making body, that the work here will be to make a recommendation to the Board of Ed that will need to convene with the other boards and the town, engage the town in some way before a final decision regarding what is going to happen is made. So that's the intention of that particular piece.
Okay, so then if we just add town referendum processes and/or town meeting,
Sure.
okay. All right, I'm done
Thank you.
with that.
Any other feedback on the purpose statement section, and then we'll flip over to the process statement and try to knock out some of the questions that are in there. Great. For the process piece here, there were just a couple of questions here. I think the most necessary conversations are regarding how we want to handle public comment. There are some thoughts in here, so I'm going to just raise that and say, I will again read what was in the document here, that for public comment, what's being proposed right now is that in-person attendance is required for public comment. Email submissions are accepted as an alternative to in-person comment. If someone wants to have something but allowed at the meeting, we're happy to do that. Comments will be limited to agenda items only and during public comment portion of the agenda. And we're going to try to do, the recommendation is to do a standard 3-minute individual minute, and/or we're considering having a sign up slot for speaking during the meeting. So those right now are what is up for discussion, just for, again, visibility here. I will open the floor because I know people have thoughts here.
Question, do you think, obviously it would depend upon how much engagement there is and how many people want to speak. There are a lot of them. Do you think the sign up, not necessarily for the slot, but for their information in case we do miss their address or anything, just for Elizabeth's sake, because there's a lot going on? It wouldn't hurt for the record of that.
Yeah, I think that would be easy. So again, for the context here, if you're unfamiliar with the public meeting process, whenever somebody gets up and gives public comment, the request is that you state your name and your address, and we need to keep a record of that as part of the meeting minutes. So what Samantha is reading is just a process for kind of helping us collect that information, as well as keep people organized who might want to speak at a meeting.
I agree with that. And then, but on to the virtual comment, virtual comments, you don't want to allow virtual comments?
I think that just administratively, it is a little bit of a challenge in terms of trying to manipulate that, depending on how many people want to talk about this. I understand that not everybody can be here at this time. Again, we'll also talk right after this regarding the meeting calendar here. But I really want to emphasize for people that there are ways to communicate with the task force outside of public comment. If you send us a letter or an email, your comments will be made available with any of the task meeting minutes. And this is a full process that's not binding. So while I realize that this might be restrictive for people who cannot be here, my position is that there are lots of ways to contribute to the process. And so to help us just hone in on the business that needs to be conducted, it would be beneficial to us to not have to administer public virtual comment during the meeting.
So if someone were to submit a question, because they can't be here, are we going to read it into,
That would be my intention.
read it into the minutes? If it's able to be answered, we should answer it.
Yep.
And if it's not able to be answered, it'll be further researched for a future answer.
That would be my hope, depending on, what it is, people, depending on what it is. Like, and it's unfortunately not a completely satisfying answer because it's not black and white, but there's a whole host of things that could come up that I'm not sure where we would even begin to start with some of it. So I would look to the board to kind of to everybody on the task force to kind of help with those assessments, whether or not it is something that we should be researching or not.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned at some point, maybe towards, or maybe as we go through the process, we're going to try to make FAQs of it available.
So my intention here, and it's something that I want to talk about tonight, is again, I'm expecting that there will be a lot of common questions that come up in the interest of transparency and everybody operating from the same base, that we would collect a FAQ and publish it on the website that we have set up as part of the New Hartford Public Schools website right now. We are trying to publish all that information so that, again, from a streamlining the process perspective, I appreciate everybody's engagement, but I know not everybody wants to sit here for us for 2 hours every couple of weeks going through all of this. That would be my intention if everybody's amenable to that process.
I like that.
So the people that are contributing virtually, remotely, they can listen, but they can't ask any questions.
That's, yeah, that's the trade-off.
So is that what you do on the Board of Education? Is that?
Yes, what, do you want to comment with the Board of Education, then you need to be in the meeting, or you need to communicate with us outside of the meeting.
Have submitted something.
Yeah.
Is that true for the Board of Selectmen also? or not?
Absolutely not. We take any and all questions wherever they come from, and we open up the OWL. But I understand you're gonna have someone sitting there and opening it up to let people, unmute them, ask their question, mute them, get to the next, and who's going for, who's raising their hand, it could get a little messy.
I feel like you would be like a moderator for the online stuff.
Yeah.
And I understand, Ben, Billy, this is a little different than what we do, but we tend to not have
It's also
40
Yeah.
people,
Board of
and there could
Finance
be
is-
40 people online.
Yeah. And I would love for that engagement, and I want to make sure that everybody's questions are getting answered too. So that is also why I want to make sure that people know that they can reach us through other venues. Happy to, like, if you're watching at home and you have a question, please email us at the task force so we can get back to you about that. It's not the intention to shut anybody out. It's just the intention of we have a business to conduct, and I want to keep it.
Let me say this, I don't think that you should limit the questions only to these people here, or if you just want to send an email. I think anybody that's home and listening should have the opportunity to raise their hand on the computer. If we can afford to hire a secretary to take the minutes, we can find the money someplace. Go to the Board of Finance, ask for some more money. But we should be able to allow those people at home that have questions to ask them and hopefully be answered at the same time. You have people that can't come out at this hour of the night. You have older people that will drive when it's dark, and they might have questions.
Can we see how many people are online right now? 21?
Quite a few. Well, I would just reserve the right to come back to this one if we
Yeah.
don't change it now. If it does become a problem with people that are.
Yeah, if people feel like they're not being heard or their questions aren't being addressed, I absolutely want to know that. But again, in the interest of running a streamlined process and again, keeping us focused, there are plenty of opportunities to weigh in. There are lots of avenues for things that we discussed. Some of the FAQ may be, hey, have you considered this? In the FAQ answer might be, we intend to address that at this point in the timeline and can come back then. It is, yeah.
Saying that, we shouldn't have limited to agenda items only, but maybe say task force related items.
I am open to hearing other people's opinion about that, I guess.
But sometimes when somebody in the audience asks a question, that tweaks something in somebody else's mind that I want to add something in addition to that question. The same thing might happen with the person at home. Somebody in the audience might think of some other question related to it that they want to get answered. I just don't think that we should not allow those people at home to be able to raise their hand and ask a question. Let's see how many people at home even raise their hands tonight. You said there was 20 some odd people?
But we shouldn't ask now. 'Cause
No,
there's
don't
no
ask now,
answer.
but I mean, when it comes to that point, see if anybody does at home want to ask a question.
Or like a chat moderator, if they were to put their question in the chat.
Yeah. but-
Something, we can definitely,
You
I
still
think
have
it does
administrators
warrant
there.
more conversation.
Well, this is the time to have the conversation. So I would like to make a decision about what we want to do to start. Again, with the option, like, anybody can add something to the agenda moving forward. If we feel like a process that we decide tonight is not working, we should raise that and address it. I don't want anything to be set completely in stone and have it be conducting 10 meetings with something that everybody's angry about.
In terms of a public comment only on the agenda items, if we really do want to open it up, I think it's best to have it be public. Public comment is public comment. At any other meeting, people can bring up, whatever they want.
Right.
So, it may be more efficient to have people discuss agenda items first and then bring up past items or to keep the conversation flowing better. But if we want to have public comment, I think we should not limit it to only the items of the day. I think it should be public comment is public comment.
But they should be task force related.
Well, yes, please, yes.
I mean, I don't want somebody to be asking us a question that has nothing to do with what we're here for.
So,
Right, but it may not be
I think
on
that
that agenda.
It might not be on
for
the
that day.
agenda that night.
Yes.
I agree. We're gonna find that people have questions and they, you know, they'll want to get ahead of the process, just like some of us will on the task force. And they sat through an hour of meeting to ask their questions about, you know,
Right,
a new
right.
school being considered. And it seems to me it's not on the agenda, but we ought to, you know, be able to respond to them and say, you know, you're ahead of us. We haven't got to that point of even considering that option. But at least what they came to ask, they had a chance to ask, and it's related to the task force business.
so maybe just revise that line item on the agenda as public comment related to task force? Or just leave it as public comment?
I would just leave it as public comment. I don't think you'll get any strange questions. Let's hope not.
Can I get an up or down vote on that really quickly, just like how do we feel about that? Public comment, so
Public comment.
public comment
Public
for
comment.
open or agenda items only?
I would prefer agenda items only, because if not, it's going to be expanded all over the place. And
That's what we're here
sometimes
for.
I think we ought to open it up more than what it is.
I agree.
So, sorry, I'm gonna actually ask for like a quick, raise of hands, if someone make a motion here to how we want to handle public comment, I would entertain one.
I'll make a motion that we adopt public comment to be just straight public comment.
I'll second it.
Nothing added.
I'll second it.
Do I have a second? Oh, you second, all
I
right,
did.
all in favor?
Was there discussion on it, or just?
Yeah, you're supposed to have discussion next, and then a vote.
All right,
We'll reverse that.
Yeah. So with this motion on the table, we didn't fully settle the role of the chair. Does the chair or does someone else have the responsibility or authority to delegate the question that might be out of the scope? Like say it's more for the board of selectmen or the board of finance, you know, who actually is empowered to moderate questions and put things in parking lots?
Well, I would say that the chair would moderate the questions and then she would direct, if it's something that's associated with Board of Selectmen, she could direct it to Board of Selectmen if we have any input on that.
Whether it's here or outside the meeting? Because again, you can't, I'm not putting you in the spot, but like board of selectmen you can't speak with the board of selectmen necessarily here. so-
I would answer the question in a meeting. I would take the question,
Yep.
but I would answer it here in a meeting, in front of a meeting.
I'm not sure what the right answer is. I'm just asking making sure we have a process for how we would handle it.
I don't think we should be responding to technical questions through email outside of our meeting. We can answer questions like they've been talking about, you know, the time, and you said, well, we'll consider that, you know, that's okay. But if we can't be answering technical questions in emails outside of a public meeting.
I hear you. That opens the door.
But she can certainly say, hey, Mary Beth and Alicia, what do you think of this question? Do you think you could speak to it the next meeting?
We have a motion on the floor regarding public comment, and its applicability to any topic or agenda items only. So can I get a vote on that motion, please? All in favor? Open. Okay. All right.
I prefer only agenda.
Okay. All right. No, you're not a voting member, Rachel. No, this is not you. Thank you for sitting up here with us. Okay.
to make sure.
The other thing that we need to just resolve is the issue of virtual versus in-person comment only. It sounded like everybody was okay with us starting with in-person comment. Well, most of us were okay. Actually, let's take a vote on that, just so that we're all very clear on that. Can I take a motion to decide whether or not we are going to allow virtual comment or in-person comment?
Make a motion to allow virtual comment to be included.
Virtual questions.
Virtual questions.
And comments.
So it would be public
It
comment.
could be just a plain comment.
Yeah.
Public comment. Covers those bases.
Virtual public comment.
Yes, virtual public comment
I'll second,
for the record.
I'll second. For
Any discussion, further discussion on that?
I would just like to know logistically how that will work, because that's that's
Yeah.
the,
I would feel more comfortable voting. I like the idea, but without a process, I feel uncomfortable voting for it. So,
What kind of process would you like?
So if we need to pay somebody, we need to talk about funding somebody to do that work and where the funds should.
Then that would have to come before the Board of Ed.
The Board of Ed fully responsible for all of the costs related to this task
I
force.
think it should start with them.
Should.
Let's start with them.
So we can table this for right now, and the Board of Ed members can take it back to the Board of Ed at the next Board of Ed meeting to see if this is something we want to fund,
Which is next week.
which is next week. Right, it's tabled for now. Any other comment on public comment?
Yes, the second to the last bullet there, sign up for a slot during the meeting. It just seems a bit formal to me. One person's comment or question may trigger someone else to want to say something, and they didn't sign up. And I don't think we ought to restrict them from being able to put their input in.
I'm happy to have a continuous sign-up process to account for that. So it's not like the sign-up needs to be closed at any particular time. If someone's speaking and someone else wants to get up, they can go put their name on the list.
I think it's merely for record keeping, just of who's spoken.
Okay?
I mean, obviously, like if someone had written their name down to speak, and then like you said, it sparked someone to respond to that comment or to add on to it. I think if it's something that's quick like that, obviously, we're not gonna want them to like run up here and write their name down, because,
We don't do it in any other meetings that I've been to. I don't go to too many Board of Education meetings, but the town meeting isn't that way, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen.
We make sure that they state their name and address.
Yeah, always.
As does the Board of Ed.
I think in.
But I, for minute keeping purposes, to have proper spelling and the road might be helpful for Elizabeth. I would say it's not a requirement that if you didn't put your name and address down, that you can't speak. You should still be able to speak, and just make sure we have your proper name and address down.
Also, we could use it as a method of just helping work through those to make sure that everybody gets covered. So what I would ask is that what we do is we have a sign-up sheet.
You lost
it. Awesome.
Never mind. They came back. They lost
Okay,
connection.
I think that was everything regarding public comment. So the other process thing that I want to just talk about here is the meeting time. So there was a request from a woman who said she was representing a group of parents saying that the meeting time, I'm sorry, we are,
That's this yeoman, as a board chair. So, did you, when you talk about public comment, just want to ask you, are you thinking about the time period you're going to devote to public comment? This task force is here to be able to do a job. How much time on each one of these meetings devoted to public comment? I think I heard 3 minutes per person. Is there an overall duration you're going to devote to public comment?
right now I don't have a plan for an overall duration of the length of time for public comment because I don't know how many people are going to get here. Again, if that becomes unwieldy, I would say that that's something that the task force needs to open up. We have this many people who want to speak to us every couple of weeks. It will be some long nights, but this is what we're here for. The important thing is to make sure that people are getting heard. So buckle up, everybody, is what I would say to that.
I agree with that. If it's something that becomes problematic as we're going through, we can have a further discussion.
I would encourage people to take advantage of the other opportunities to communicate with us. And again, know that there will be chances to make your voice heard through the town processes that will be at the end of this. So a lot of what we're trying to do right now, again, is do the fact-finding mission. What will come of the fact-finding mission, what will happen after that point, are questions we're not going to be able to fully answer as a task force. So there's a lot of stuff that I think we're just probably not going to be able to answer, but I want to give it a shot, and try to get as much input as we can until it becomes a challenge for everybody who wants to participate.
With respect to the process, are we saying after X hours, we're concluding, or is it go into the night? That's where I think it's a fair question for us as volunteers, as parents, grandparents, etc. I would not want to be in a situation where we have committed public comment unless we do it once, and then the next time we make a rule, but just note like our meeting duration starts at X and ends earlier than Y. If there's more, we can bring the list to the next meeting. But I just worry that I don't want to cut people off and do it arbitrarily and be get transparent and fair. So that's the one question of how we handle it if it goes long.
I don't think we should be limiting our meeting time.
Just making sure that we're on the same page before we go into it, so.
That was my expectation as well, that we're gonna do the work.
Well, I'm doing the work regardless, it's just are we going
Yeah.
until, okay?
So I believe there was a request from the town if we could move the meeting time up to accommodate people who have family schedules. I also have a family schedule, so I understand the concern. I will open the floor up to discussion, or take a motion if anybody wants to move the meeting time. I feel comfortable having it at 7. I know it's not convenient for everybody. It is the time that most of the other town meetings are. We did not record or live stream the first meeting. That will not be the case for this meeting and moving forward. So people who are not able to be here will be able to watch the meeting while it's happening from home, watch the recording afterwards, and again, follow up with any questions. So I do believe that we're trying to be as accommodating as possible in that regard, but there's somebody else on the task force who believes we should consider the meeting time. I would,
The only time I would maybe consider might be 6. I think 5 o'clock's too early. I think some people are still working, just getting home. They need to have dinner, especially if, we go for a couple of hours. I'm retired now, so I'm really flexible. So I don't have a preference, but I wouldn't mind entertaining 6 o'clock if other people are interested in that.
I would just, personally, as a parent myself, I would just have to, obviously, depending upon what time, I wouldn't do any earlier than 6. I know my kids have their extracurriculars, and I know a lot of families have that too. For me, 7 o'clock has always worked the best. I think maybe if public comment gets to the point where it's a lot, we maybe then consider scooching it up a little bit earlier. But I know baseball will be starting soon, and that will go till it's dark. So maybe leave that as something that we could adjust if needed. But I know for me, I've listened to all of your meetings on an earbud while giving my kids a bath at night sometimes.
If you leave it at 7 and they're not able to make it, at least they can watch us virtually like you did with your AirPod.
Yeah.
And we should still be able to have them make comments if they're home and they can't be here.
Yes, I think 6 o'clock is a little too early, especially if there are people that are working during the day. By the time they get home and maybe prepare a meal or something like that, I think 7 is more reasonable. And now that we have the convenience of being able to do it at home, to participate in it.
any other discussion? I think it sounds to me like the consensus is that for now, we will leave the meetings at 7 PM moving forward. And again, as everything else, we will evaluate as we go. Hopefully the live meeting recordings, and the posting afterwards will be helpful for those of you who can't be here with us in person. Guys, we made it. Through that portion of the meeting.
For that.
All right, thank you all for your feedback on that. The next item on our agenda for tonight is our routine business or timeline check-in. So we are on time in terms of the timeline that is available on the website and where we are working through. Michelle can give a little bit more of an update where we are there, but we want to comment on that actually in terms of the timeline. Thank you.
Yep, so we are continuing working on facility conditions. We're feverishly working on them. We're trying to wrap them up in-house by the 25th so we can review them together, get you guys the document about a week before our presentation is our goal. So we're kind of still working on that. Normally, I don't normally work on programming until I've done the facility conditions, but we kind of made this schedule and jumped ahead with that. I have started on programming just by documenting the existing conditions on the floor plan, which I can share with you in a little bit. But from there, we're going to start benchmarking, start with spreadsheets and evaluating the programming a little bit more, scheduling, looking at all of that. So there's a lot more depth we'll be getting into. Additionally, for enrollment projections, I did speak with M&B Planning today. They had told me, that they have lots of data compiled. They're working on the enrollment projections, and they'll have a draft to me within 2 weeks. So we're tracking ahead. I am a little bit maybe behind in some of the programming. I do want to schedule a meeting with the admin team soon to get that going, but I really just needed to focus on getting these facility conditions wrapped up. So yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks. For, again, those of you following along at home, the timeline that we are referring to is available on the website. And so it details what the timeline generally is. It is broken up into various sections regarding the different topics of work that are being covered through the analysis. If you have any questions on any of those, please don't hesitate to reach out for us. The next thing that I want to talk about tonight is just where our official informational outlets are on task force business. So again, I appreciate all of you are here because you must have been touched by one of them. But for those of you following along, we are trying to make sure that the communication for this goes out as consistently and as broadly as possible so people can sign up for email alerts from the town website. There is a website on the New Hartford Public Schools website. There is a page dedicated to the task force business that has any of the documents that we're reviewing, all of the links to our agenda, our minutes will be posted there, links to the recordings will be there, as well as the contact information for the people on the task force and how to get in touch with us. Meeting announcements will also be sent out via the New Hartford Public Schools Facebook page, so please follow along on New Hartford Public Schools Facebook page if you're not already there. And as mentioned, as of tonight, there is a new YouTube channel that is dedicated to the school facility task, the School Facility Utilization Task Force Committee. This meeting will be the first one posted there, and all their meetings will be posted there. The link for that channel will be available in the meeting minutes that will be attached to this meeting tonight. So really trying to get the word out. If you are talking to anybody who says they don't know how to stay updated, please send them our way. And if you want to know what any of those things are, I do have some handouts here that list all the places where you can get information. So if you want to take one on your way home to stay updated, please do so.
Any idea when, so if we have a meeting tonight, any idea when the video will be uploaded to that?
My hope is that, so Sarah Gilwell, who is, I think, in this room, who's been so helpful here, she has said that she'll thank you. Sarah, you're standing right over there. Sarah has agreed to try to get them up within one business day, and if the only hesitancy there would be if she's not available for some reason, then we'll get it up as quickly as possible after that. Another item that should be under routine business, and I made a mistake, was that I did not include the minutes from last meeting. So next meeting, we will review the minutes from the first meeting as well as the minutes from this meeting and either amend them or adopt them as recommended. So apologies for that mistake. New business, Michelle.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, this is Michelle. She's from Silver Petrozelli and Associates. She is leading the charge on the analysis for this. I'm really thankful for the work that she's here. Tonight she's going to share with us just a preliminary update on the facility conditions after they've gone through the tours. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. So the facility conditions is our review of the building as it is in its current state. We're looking at finishes, we're looking at equipment, we're looking at code violations, the lifespan of certain materials. And what I'll do tonight is just kind of hit a few bullet points at each school in each of our categories. if that's okay. I don't want to like drag it out, but I'll just to give you a flavor of what you'll expect next week, we will present on a board, on a screen, have a lot of visuals with that, and there will be estimates attached to kind of what we're seeing, what needs to be fixed. So just starting with Bakerville, on the architectural section, which is what I represent, we note that casework is not ADA compliant. Common, you're gonna hear this through all the schools. It's just very common of the age of buildings. Other things where there's some water kind of coming into the windows. We think that the windows are aging. The roof is also aging. There's a lot of wood to be replaced on the exterior. Some wire glass in the building. So that's a few things. Plumbing and fire protection, replace water heaters, determine if radon provisions are required, replace old plumbing fixtures, some valves, certain things like that. Mechanical, the central air handling systems for heating and ventilation and cooling, likely need replacement, replace the boiler, replace portable rooftop units. Mechanical will take a good chunk of the cost with a lot of these schools. Electrical, the old electrical distribution panel should be replaced since the manufacturer no longer exists and replacement parts are hard to get. Disconnect switches for mechanical, plumbing, and kitchen equipment are old and should be replaced. Recommending some additional LED retrofit happen, but it's better with new LED fixtures. I will have an engineer with me next week that will speak to some of this better than I can. So for New Hartford, again, we have the ADA casework. The roofs and soffits here, soffits are really in disrepair because of the roof. Additionally, some ceilings are damaged. Some of the interior caulk, VCT flooring has this discoloration, and that's also at Bakerville too. There's some more things that I actually have to check for New Hartford. All right, plumbing, replace old plumbing fixtures, some more thermostatic mixing valves, grease trap requirements, indirect waste requirements. Mechanical has some central air handling systems, exhaust fans used for ventilation, insulating the entire system. I don't know what that means, so I apologize. Electrical, similar things. The 400 amp main service disconnect switch should be replaced because the manufacturer no longer exists. Disconnect switches, again, the LED recommendations. There's some signage that's not ADA accessible. And moving on to Antolini, architectural. Again, we have casework here. Some older flooring, some expansion joints, ADA issues at the side of the stage, handrails and stairs. There's some old, the offices for the gym are in an old locker room, so we'll kind of give some cost to renovate those spaces. Plumbing and fire protection, replace old water heaters, determine grease trap requirements, thermostatic mixing valves. You'll hear some repetitive things. Mechanical, many of the school mechanical systems are nearing the end of their useful lifespans. Schools' mechanical systems are numerous and decentralized. A centralized BMS would improve controllability and comfort. Many classrooms lack cooling, electrical. We have some disconnect switches again, LED retrofit, and again, some more signage. There'll be a whole lot more than that. This was kind of the update I asked them to give me right after we visited the schools. So that kind of is where our facilities is. Again, we're working on finalizing our narratives, finalizing our estimates, and we'll compile that into a presentation for you all and kind of walk you through the high points of it. And then my second thing that we did was I met with the principals and superintendent and, sorry, what's Mike's, personnel, right? And we went through the buildings, documented, we've been working on documenting the existing conditions. I don't know why I'm just doing one at a time, I'm sorry. It was secure.
Just for everybody, again, references here, these are maps of the facilities for the schools. We will not be distributing these publicly for security reasons. So sorry for that, but we will talk about them as best we can. These are references for us as we are doing our work. Thanks.
So basically what we're doing is we're looking at how the building is utilized. So you'll see that we color code it. Your blue is your classrooms. And we're looking at everything in the classrooms, from the storage to the size of the classrooms. Again, we'll benchmark these. We're going to evaluate the area that they take up within the school, and these will also help us study the capacity of these schools. The darker purple is your special ed and your pupil personnel services, such as intervention, speech and language, your social workers, school psych, sensory rooms. Those are very important things to look at, because this is usually the #1 complaints I see at schools today. Your specials are your art, music, health. You'll see, at these schools, we have a shared room to support that.
Michelle, I'm sorry, could you clarify what the nature of the complaint is regarding those?
Usually there's either not enough space, they're kind of shoehorned into spaces. There's multiple people in one space. When you're, going over speech and you're on top of each other, that doesn't work. A multitude like that. There's a lot newer needs when these, here's Bakerville, built in 1941. No one was thinking about special education at that time. So things kind of get shoehorned in. You'll see on the plan, there's a lot of shared spaces, so it, doesn't work all the time. If you want to have a conference and someone in the sensory room, it's not going to work. So those are the things we're kind of pointing out, and I hope that in the future we can share these at least on a screen, because I will be pointing out specifically some of these issues, but we can talk about that. So your light pink is your library of media, green is your physical education, and in a space like this that's utilized as your cafeteria too. I'm kind of splitting it in half to show you that it's a shared usage. Your administration spaces, anything to support your staff and your main office, are in the orange terracotta color. Your building infrastructure, boiler rooms, your bathrooms, your electrical rooms, storage, all those general storage. All those things are in that dark gray, and your circulation is in your light gray. I'm also putting some information about when these additions were built. As we move into the state, if we're gonna end up doing renovations, you get a lot of credit on some of your buildings because they are older, and you get to actually enlarge your space standards. We also wanna look at enrollment today and our enrollment projections, and evaluate how these buildings can support your students moving forward. So we have Bakerville, New Hartford, similar. We have usually a different color for pre-K. We like to kind of pull those out separately, especially because there are separate grants for pre-K. So if we do look into expanding this program, we can utilize that. And I can walk, do you want me to walk you specifically through the schools? Yes. Okay. I'll go back to Bakerville then. So Bakerville, when you walk in, you have your gym and cafeteria at the front, always good, your office to the front. You kind of have that shared service all in your front zone, which is nice. And as you walk down the corridor, you have your art, music, and library together, which is another nice organization. Then as you move down, you have kindergarten. I will say kindergarten doesn't have bathrooms, which typically they do have. Luckily, they have the bathrooms in the middle there. They utilize those. But unfortunately, that means the first graders and second graders that are farther down in the modular edition, they end up going all the way down to the restrooms in the main corridor lobby area. So they're, just because they're trying not to have little kids and the older kids in the bathrooms together. So that's a little issue there. The modular corridor is really tight. If you look at it, it's smaller than all the other corridors, and yet they have all their storage in the corridor. So it feels even smaller. So that's just kind of a brief overview. And again, I'm going to dive much deeper into this as we move forward. Okay, moving on to Bakerville. It's a great little courtyard plan.
That's New Hartford.
Yes, did I say?
You said Bakerville.
Oh, I'm sorry. New Hartford. Okay. I did realize I have 1948 in here, and I saw on another document it says 1954, so I need to look into that and see which one it is. Anyway, here you walk in, you have your main office to the side. To the left, you have a shared conference room and school psych. Again, not an ideal situation. It does seem that most schools don't have a dedicated conference room, which would be ideal. So moving you come in and go to the right, where we are today in the gym cafeteria. As you can see, a shared space like this, all the furniture along the side does not make gym class easy here. You have less padding on the walls to really do some significant gym activities. So just something to note. The kitchen's there, very tight kitchen. I was here to witness some of the students, they line up out in the corridor because, you can't fit through that servery very well. Along the courtyard side, you have a lot of smaller spaces, your principal's office, your nurse's office, some of your speech and sensory classrooms. And then turning the corner, you have your pre-K rooms on the outer side. Those rooms are decent size for pre-K. We like to see closer to 1,000 square feet. They do have their restrooms in there, so that's good for the little guys there. Kindergarten is a great size. All the other classrooms are perfect size. We love to see 800 to 900 square feet for general classrooms. So you hit the mark there. So moving down the corridor, you have a special education room, your media center, which also has an intervention room off of it. Your grade 2, your grade 1, and you're kind of wrapped around this nice little courtyard. Okay. Moving on to Antolini. So the front door, if you look to the side, here's the main office there with the art room on the opposite side. So it's really nice. You have the main office, the principal, and the nurse suite right at the front door. There is a workroom, break room across from there. Moving down the corridor towards the gym and auditorium here. I know it's called a multi-purpose room, but considering it has tiered steps, I'm going to call it an auditorium because you can't use it for much else, So it's really nice. You have the instrumental room attached to that, and they have band in the auditorium. And art over there. So all of the specials are kind of located together over there with music, one other music room down the hall. You have the same situation with the gym cafeteria and the kitchen off of it, and those green offices to the back. Those were the ones they're still really essentially old locker rooms, bathrooms that storage and offices are in. So moving back out of there, down the corridor, which everyone calls the T, so I labeled it that. I picked up on that. Meet you at the T. I heard that a lot. So in the corners there, you have your boiler room and lavatories, perfect spot since they don't have windows. And then moving down to the 1990 edition, so to the right of the page, you have your grade 4 and grade 5 and grade 3, which is great about this setup is you have 2 special ed rooms in between them, so it really helps support those students in those 2 rooms. There's additionally a health room. And then moving back to the center of the T, down the other side, you have another grade 5 room, grade 6, again with special ed in between those that help support those students. Here, if you notice, there's a darker pink color. These are district-wide programs that, you have your IT, your district IT and your curriculum coaches there. So that is just something to point out. I'm going to track that differently because it's not necessarily specific to the school. We did have one storage room also that I skipped over in New Hartford where there's files for the district stored. So continuing down the hall, we have some smaller special ed rooms you'll see, speech, intervention, counselor, OT, and another special ed room, all circulating around the media center, all really nicely laid out. And then the rooms that aren't colored are the Oak Hill rooms that are now vacated. So I didn't color them yet. Moving forward, we'll look at what a good use for those rooms are. We'll, get into this more, whether it's bringing new services in or, looking at different grade structures and just reutilizing those rooms. So again, this is very preliminary, our first step in the process of programming.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Any questions for Michelle from the task force members?
So on these schools and these school campuses, will you also be considering whether there will be any room for future expansions?
Absolutely, we will get into that.
Okay. As part of our study, has anybody ever thought about whether, I don't know if anybody's talked about this, if we would consider trying to get 6th grade up to our regionalized school system, Region 7?
I don't know about that, considering it's not New Hartford School.
Have you ever,
I actually just took a tour of that school.
have you ever been involved in a project where they were moving a elementary, 6th grade up to a
I have
middle
not.
school?
Oh, 6th to a middle school, that comes up all the time, yes.
You've been
Yes.
involved in projects with that?
Yes.
But
None that necessarily ever happened, but it's a big discussion block.
any regionalized schools are just
No.
like a single town high school or middle school?
No, I have worked in regional schools, but not like bringing other grades into
Yeah, there's
one.
four towns in there. So when we talk about our pre-K program, right, this is, and I don't know how much knowledge you have on this. I was a little confused, okay? So, when I look at the budget that was passed for the 25-26 year, the current year that we're in, and the budget was 2 sections of pre-K. When we're here, taking the tour, there's 3 sections of pre-K. And I don't know how that happened. I looked at the minutes of the Board of Ed minutes. I didn't see any motions where we were adding a section of pre-K, so now we have free pre-K, which also means adding a teacher, so an additional cost. But when we look at our pre-K program, I know that during our tour, we were talking about that, and I was told that we are required to offer pre-K services for 3 and up if they have either an IEP or what's an equivalent of an IEP. Do we always have to have a preschool program in a school, or can we outsource to the local community daycares any pre-K services that they may need? If that's going to be part of a consideration, is because I'm concerned that this building is now, almost half of it is for pre-K. We have 44 students for pre-K out of 99. How does that happen without additional costs being subsidized maybe by the K through 6th graders? Right? I don't know if this pre-K program is breaking even, or if there's additional costs going into the pre-K program that are being absorbed by the regular taxpayers outside of the tuition that they pay. So I have a lot of questions about the pre-K program, and I hope we really delve into it a lot.
Okay, yeah, I don't know much of that now, but as we get deeper into the programming, we will review pre-K. Typically, what I hear often in towns is they usually want to increase their pre-K. Whether it's, half day, full day, that's different in different towns, but it's been a bigger thing lately, and there is an added incentive from the state for it. So it is usually looked upon in a good way.
Well, I just hope that we're not asking the parents of K through 6 to subsidize the pre-K program, is my concern.
Yeah.
Because we added a teacher in the budget, and I don't know how that happened.
So
After the budget was passed.
I'm gonna just take, because I think there's some of these questions that are outside of Michelle's scope in terms
I
of
know.
what she doesn't want to talk
I know.
about right now.
But I'm just
I think
saying
that those
it's a
conversations,
lot of-
can I just finish my thought
Yeah.
for a second, and then I'd love to hear what you have to say. I would believe that would fall under programming. I need to go back and double check, because I know that I believe that we talked about the Board of Ed, we must have discussed adding a 3rd section at the Board of Ed. I just cannot recall the top of my head regarding what that is. So I want to come back to you regarding those facts, regarding those decisions and what happened and where that was in the budget, because I want to make sure that the record accurately reflects the reality of that situation, because I don't believe there would be ever a circumstance in which we would have said we were only doing 2, and then magically the school did 3. So I'm going to verify that so that everybody has the full story on that. But from a programming perspective, I think that how we want to handle pre-K within the school district is something that we should talk about as a town. So we'll do, again, a fact-finding mission regarding the programming. That there'll be a little more come up during the programming pieces there. As Michelle's talking to the admin of the staff, how we're thinking about that program, we can address some of those questions then.
Okay,
I
great.
guess one thing I'd like to address now, we've got the right people here. I think it's enrollment time. If I saw something properly, that it's enrollment time for pre-K. My question would be, is there plans to increase the pre-K beyond what we have now? Like for next year, for example?
I think that's a question that needs to be
Well, I'm
addressed by the
asking,
Board of Ed.
the superintendent and the Board of Education chair. Is there plans to expand that beyond what we have now?
There's no plans to expand, right? Right now.
I know that it is a very popular thing. So from like a lot of different friends of mine and different parents in town, there's always a waiting list for the pre-K program. Just because it is a fantastic way to get your 3 and 4 year olds, like, what's the word I'm trying to come up with? Comfortable with the school environment and having it here, it really gets them into that routine that really will help with that. Obviously, I think the discussion during the programming section, and we learn a lot more about it, but I know that there is a very big demand in our town from parents. And we hear it all the time, especially like PTO, we see it, so.
I hear that, I hear you. I'm concerned that what we have for our buildings is being utilized for something that we're not required to do except for providing services.
I think that we're getting into a topic that is part of the budget and the questions that have been asked related to the budget process, that on this coming Tuesday's meeting, there'll be some general information about the schools, including the preschool program, that will be addressed there. And so I think everyone's welcome that the meeting's public. It's a meeting in public, and so everyone's welcome there. And then some more information from the Board of Education on this topic will help enlighten this conversation versus having it here. So it's an important
Okay,
topic.
but it's definitely something we need to.
No, I mean, just in terms of like, Chancellor's important hearing from the superintendent and the Board of Education about this program, the requirements, the value of it. I know there's also notion that, having students in the school early helps to reduce the outplacements later, with outplacements being one of the biggest drivers of our costs. And so there's various, pieces of this that I don't think that I can do justice, or this board can. And so looking to the Board of Education, starting with Tuesday's meeting, to talk about that.
I have a question, Michelle, for your research purposes, obviously not something that's gonna be answered now. During enrollment projections, I know M&P, they look at all different kinds of things. Is pre-K something that's brought up during enrollment projections? I know it's a separate little entity, but I'm just curious.
So I believe, I'm gonna have to check with them for sure. Usually that's given to us, how many pre-K students you want in your program, and that's the number that they would have. They wouldn't project it exactly.
Okay, and that's what they would work off of,
Yes, it
basically.
usually starts with K and up, actual
Okay.
projections.
That's what I was just wondering, just because I know that it would be a good
But I can double check.
filter for enrollment.
I'm fairly certain.
Any other questions regarding the facility state, which was really what was the topic for tonight?
One thing that I don't know that will be delved into is, I know when we took our tour up at Antolini, we had a discussion with Mike about possibly bringing students that are outplaced in, right? So would we be able to get data through this process as to how many students that are outplaced currently that could conceivably be brought in, and if there's any associated savings we would see with that? That would be part of our analysis.
Yeah, those numbers are usually given to us, so if working with the Board of Ed or administration, we can
I would
probably
assume
get
that would
those.
come under the programming capacity section of the.
And that is another common thing that
Yeah.
districts are doing too.
Yeah, and we share generally some of we can share generally some of those numbers regarding how many students are being in service, roughly how many are being outplaced right now. And I know that I've spoken to Mike in the past regarding if we have an understanding of what types of services would allow us to bring people back, like in an elastic sense, right? Because the population that needs to be outplaced is always changing. And so I don't think we'd ever be able to cover 100% of things, but if we talk a little bit about like what the bulk of it would be. So I would expect that to come up during programming. Any other questions regarding facility conditions?
Maybe one more, I'll make a comment, is that I don't believe it's any desire of anyone on this task force to recommend that we increase class sizes through our process. Whatever process we do, or recommendations that we come up with, it is solely because we believe that there may be room to consolidate and not increase class sizes because there are empty classrooms. There are, in my opinion, some rooms that are underutilized because they are full classrooms instead of like the smaller breakout rooms that would be good for sped and things like that. So I know that that's going to come up through their analysis, but I think there's been some rumors going on around town that we're going to consolidate and have class sizes of 25, and that's not the desire of anyone on this board.
The Board of Education, and I don't remember the numbers, but we do have limits regarding what we consider to be good class sizes, and we can verify those numbers and share them out, that right now, that's what we aim for. And that, again, is not my intention to change anything there.
That's exactly the numbers we will take to determine the school's capacity with. We want to stick with your standards and what you all want here. We wouldn't recommend that either. So we will be working with that.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks so much for all of that. Going to move on to item number, letter E, which is public comment. Hey, everybody, it's your turn. Since I don't have a sign-up sheet right now, if you would like to say something, I would ask that you come and step forward so that you can be close to our friend the owl. You'll need to state your name, address, and you are welcome to address the board.
You want a list, Elizabeth? Put a list, like people writing down.
Yeah, I do. My name is Noah Carlson, and I live at 455 West Hill Road, New Hartford, Connecticut, 06057.
I'm sorry, could you come up a little bit closer for me so I can hear? I have a hearing problem.
I can barely hear you from back there.
Mr. Carlson, I know exactly who you are. I'll write down your name and
Thank you.
address.
I know, I'm sorry, I have a hearing problem and I can't understand your question, so if you could come forward, it would help.
You want me to
John,
repeat my
I'll do it.
name?
Yeah,
I know it.
thank you.
Oh, okay. One comment on class size. Do you know the highest ranked nation in the world, you know what their class size is? You
I'm
don't?
sure you're going to tell us.
I will. It's 30 to 35. The second highest ranked class nation is, by the way, Norway, but they require the teachers to have master's degrees before they teach. Now, as one guy said, class size only makes the difference if you have good teachers. Have small classes and bad teachers, you get bad results. Anyway, I had a question for you. What, this school, how many students was it designed for?
I don't know that information.
Oh, well, the superintendent's here, he should know.
You were referred to the fire marshal already, sir.
No, you should know how big the school is, don't you know? Okay, he knows how. Okay, so I'd like to know the design size of all three schools.
Are you talking about the code capacity or
The design capacity.
Okay.
And the other question I have for you is, this is a public building, correct?
Yes,
Do you know that the blueprints for this building are online?
I do.
Okay, so why can't we see the map?
I just want to, I'm trying to protect our students.
She
in
just
the best
walked
way
us
we
through
can,
it.
and I will discuss it with the superintendent and the board chair, if there's any of this information that we can be made
Do you have
available.
the
But right
student's
now,
name?
the layout of the, excuse me, Mr.
Are the
Carlson, you asked me a
student
question,
names?
I'm trying to answer it.
But I
I'm
don't
going to,
understand the answer because there are no student names on the,
this explains where the students are throughout the day and how they're using the space. I don't think it's information that's necessarily publicly appropriate for us to publish online regarding the layout of the schools. With that said, that is a decision that's being made by the superintendent and the Board of Education. I will discuss it with them after this and see if there's any information that we are comfortable sharing. We are going to do the best we can to be transparent about the amount of space, the amount of rooms, what we are using the space for, without giving away the minute details of what is going on within the schools to protect our students.
okay. Having lived in a security environment, your answer actually makes little technical sense. So anyway,
Thank you.
the other question I have is, will all the data be online?
So we're going to publish as much information as we can that is safe for us to do. Again, that will be available on the website. There is a page dedicated for that on the New Hartford Public Schools website. If you go, there's a section right on the website that says Board of Education. Right under that menu is one that says School Utilization School Facility Utilization Task Force, I'm never gonna get that right, although maybe I will by the end of the session. And so everything that we're looking at here will be made available there, with, again, with the exception of the maps.
Including all the financial data,
I'm sorry?
all the financial data.
All the financial data,
Yeah.
whatever we're using to evaluate our decision here, we're going to publish as much of that as online as possible, so you'd be able to look at it. That's the intention of this.
In other words, you're saying you'll withhold some data?
Could you speak up so
The
we can hear
caveat
you?
I'm making is regarding anything that is
Speak up so we can
affecting
hear
the
you too.
security of our students in our schools.
I'm asking if they're gonna withhold data.
We can't hear you.
Like us as parents, we don't want half that data out there. Like, why should half these people know where our children are during the day?
They're in school.
Yeah, but why is it in?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I really appreciate this, and thank you, are you all done? Just, okay, thank you guys so much.
Go back and forth.
Anybody else who would like to address the board, please again, come forward one at a time, so that we can hear you effectively, and I'd like for you to state your name and address.
Good evening, Jay Bailey, 575 Main Street. Thank you all for giving me a chance to speak. I got some bullet points so I can go through quick and not ramble on. If I go over 3 minutes, I'm sorry, but I'll try to stick to the script there. So first thing I wanted to point out, I think everybody wants to save time. If I can come up with a couple little ideas that takes hours and hours off our time, I think everybody would be good with that, right? Agreed?
I'm open to hearing what you have to say.
Okay, so our selectmen, our 3 selectmen are very experienced, and they're backed up by a great board of finance, who all have a lot of experience in this town. These are not rookies. They know things that we, stumble around, and they very graciously guide us and ask us questions so we think and research things better, okay? So when they speak and ask a question, you really should pay attention to them, because they may be leading you in a direction, okay? Dan has kind of straightened me out a few things. I admit I'm wrong about something, so, and that brings me to, Alicia was spot on about the new school thing. Why are we studying a new school, okay? So with a modest bit of research, didn't take much at all. There's some new schools being built in Connecticut, one at $90 million, a couple more at like $135 million. I'm like, that's just like, I was floored. And then the state is only gonna pick up half of that cost. So you're talking about, we'd be paying a minimum. A school just smaller than Antolini actually was 90 million. So say just for round figures, it's going to cost at least $1 million to build a school a little bigger than Antolini. There's no way, excuse me, I'm trying to save you time. Don't start with the clock, stopwatch with me.
I'm
right,
just trying to
excuse
follow
me.
the rules.
Well, listen,
Excuse me,
you're-
I'm trying to follow the rules that we set at the top of the meeting, and I'm trying to
I
give you.
don't think we limited it to 3
You know
minutes.
what, just
I
give,
actually have a clock right here.
that's what I mean,
I
stop
don't
it.
think we agreed that the public comment was going to be limited to 3 minutes. I thought we were.
Just let me finish, and then, so, I have a couple things to say, and you know what, so you're not paying attention. Alicia was spot on, because there's no way that the town, you're gonna get everybody to approve, 50 to $65 million in a budget to build a school. Well, Hartford's never gonna approve it. It's a fantasy. And we can't even get everybody to agree to close 1 school, never mind 3. Again, a fantasy. No one's gonna close 3 schools in this town. No one wants to pay 50 to $65 million. I think, personally, the new school should just be taken off the plate. You shouldn't even be talking about it. Okay, that's just, you do what you want, but I'm saying it's a waste of time. Then, actually, I was wrong when I said I thought it was a very simple solution. Oh, just put an addition on Antolini, it's centrally located, all our problems are over. Dan quickly set me straight. You got to blast at Antolini. The lot isn't even big enough. Bakersfield's got size restrictions, and this place has got a lot of room, but guess what? It's a floodplain out there. So we have 3 sites, and all 3 of them have challenges to put additions on. Okay, so maybe, you know what? I was wrong. One location probably won't work. Dan's like, he knows the answer. He's sitting here quietly letting us come to our conclusions, okay? So I know you're gonna think about it, but I'd even seriously starting to think additions. If new schools cost this much, and you got a blast, and you got floodplains, and additions are gonna be millions. You know what? I thought it was ridiculous for $1 million roof on this building. To tell you the truth, it's looking cheap. And Dan tried to tell me that, well, it's not really that bad. And he's right on. Alicia's right. And then, actually, speaking of Alicia being right on, again, my next thing was gonna be the enrollment in the preschool. That's huge. Where's it gonna end? And that's, again, Alicia already hit it. Preschool is a big deal. And where are you going with it?
Which we pay for.
Well, it doesn't matter who's paying for it.
No, we're not gonna interact.
But like I'm saying, it's a big topic. So she's right again. All right? So pay attention to your selectmen and everything's gonna really run smoother here. You think I'm wrong about that?
Jay,
Don't
please
do
talk.
that.
All right,
Just
so,
the task
all right. Then, it's, the last thing is obviously staffing. It's not just buildings, it's the staff. No one wants to see anybody lose jobs but you have to think about downsizing your staff. And the preschool, which ties into that, is if you're interfering with businesses in town, they have staff. They pay taxes, they employ people, so there's staffing on that end too. So how you meet the staffing with the preschool and how we handle preschool and our town who's already given us those services, see, there's a lot to consider that, okay? And then, as part of the staffing, we're pretty heavy administrative wise. Did you know we're the only town in Regional 7 to have a full-time superintendent? And some people say, well, but we're the biggest town. Okay, that makes sense, kinda. So let's pick a big town, like West Hartford, where the superintendent's from. They have one superintendent and 16 schools. He has 2 assistant superintendents. They have 9,000 plus kids. So you break up the work, you got, each one gets 5 plus schools and 3,000 kids apiece to supervise and keep straight. You know what? 2 little schools, 3 even if we have an extra one, because by the time, additions and new schools are so expensive, I'm ready to be on Mr. Klepp's page and we can have an extra school. What the heck? For the cost of additions and a new school, Bakersville's a walk in the park. Maybe you're not wrong. We can have an extra school hanging around. I almost would concede defeat on that one compared to building and schools. And so, but I think you should seriously consider having a part-time superintendent because, it's a pretty cakey job here and we're the only ones that has a full-time one. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I will have comments about the construction later. I was a little nervous when you said stuff like at Antolini, the 3 rooms would be something about extra services. They're classrooms. Are you being guided? Someone telling you? I mean, those are classrooms. Why would they be anything else? And if you say something's old, or that's old, or it may not be the, optimum, it's useful. You can't just go around condemning everything because it's got a scuff on the floor and it's discolored.
We'll consider all that, Jay.
All right, and I'm starting to rant a little about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Give you a lot to think about.
Thank you. Anybody else who'd like to address the task force, please come on up.
Shelley got her hand up first.
Sorry, I'm just, if you guys, if anybody who wants to speak would like to form a line, I am doing.
No. Shelley, just come up and give your name and
My name
address.
is Shelley Lloyd. I used to be a teacher. I think I can speak loud enough for you all to hear me from here.
Shelley, where do you live?
29 Pioneer Drive in Hartford, Connecticut.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak about your public comment section that you discussed tonight. and having a list of people signing up, I think you could easily end up with very, very disjointed public comments. One person's public comment could very easily lead into, as someone else said, someone else's thought about the same subject. If you have 20 people that have signed up on a sheet and you go through all those 20 people and number 21 wants to talk about what number 1 said, the number 1 person could have left already, and the conversation would be like, what? You know, I think you need to be a little bit more lenient in that, as every other commission is. I don't think there's any other commission that has a sign-up sheet, is there? For people speaking in public comment. And what has happened in my experience in town, believe me, I attend a lot of public meetings, is when it just gets too lengthy, they just say they're gonna have to adjourn at a certain time. You know, if it's 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, 10:30, or whatever it is, and then it will be continued. But I just think, you know, having a sign-up sheet is just gonna make for some very disjointed public comment.
Thank you. Mr. Buzzy, your turn. Sorry.
Tom Buzzy, 651 Miles Road. Regarding the recommended repairs to all the buildings, I was just hoping you will, when you present those with the costs, that you designate which ones are required for schools versus which ones are required just to keep the building as a functioning structure. So, because there's gonna be a designation, like a roof obviously is, regardless of what you use it for, but if there's a signage issue that's only related to a school, that would be off to the side, so you have 2 different cost analysis.
Is there a purpose for that, Tom?
Well, if you're talking about closing a building as a school, but it's still gonna cost you X to keep it open, you want to know that cost.
The lady in the blue jacket, please.
I'm Kate Wilder, 415 Step Out.
Wait a minute, start again, I'm sorry. Your name?
Kate Wilder.
W-I-L-D?
Wilder, W-I-L-D-E-R.
Okay, and what street?
415 Step Out.
Thank you.
I have easy questions. I want to know the number of vacant classrooms.
So right now, I would say that the number.
Vacant, that means they're not used for 6 hours a day for students. There's nothing in there.
The number of vacant classrooms right now are the classrooms that were being utilized by Oak Hill, that was at Antonini, and they're not being used. They are 3 official classrooms, is the way I would count those.
Yep.
And like some space in between them that is used to kind of support the classrooms. 3, I think.
Only 3 vacant per school, or?
Those are the only vacant classrooms in all 3 buildings total. They're all in Antonini.
These are classrooms that do not have students in them.
Correct. There's,
Correct.
they're not being used right now.
Right.
Because Oak Hill, which was an
They
accessory
there.
program, was using them, and they vacated them, and we
Right.
have not
And there were,
fulfilled them.
how many classrooms here? 5?
They were using 3 classrooms.
Okay. And how many vacant classrooms here?
In my opinion, there's not any vacant classrooms, there's underutilized classrooms.
All right. However you look at it, how many here? And how many in Antonini? And how many in Paperville?
In terms of rooms that are not being used at all, there are only 3 rooms at Antonini that are not being used at all. When we talk about rooms that are being underutilized, it is that throughout the day, they are being used for different purposes, so they are not
No.
occupied for the full.
These rooms are used for teaching purposes. How many are you not vacant because there's no teacher in there? And no desks and no 6 hours worth of students?
I don't know how to answer that question.
I'm not sure I understand.
That's gonna be a pretty broad question, and with a lot of different answers from people's opinions, having gone through all the classrooms and having vastly different understandings about what you really need in that classroom. I see one person in there, one teacher, and it's a big room. Yeah, but I don't understand that.
Are there
When we-
10
let me
desks
finish
and
my
one
thought.
teacher?
Let me finish my thought. That's one thing I made a note for myself to ask, but I see we've got a whole section on it, and it's called programming and capacity. You're talking about capacity, and that's something that I think we really have to flesh out. And there's gonna be a lot of different opinions about it, but that's what we have to answer before we decide whether we're gonna close or remove anything or what we're gonna do, because that's a big, wide open question.
I realize that you're asking us a question right now.
That's a tough question to answer. Is there a teacher stationed in that room 6 hours a day?
There are,
I would say just those Oak Hill classrooms.
Sorry?
I don't think that's.
There's some that are not used 6 hours a day. There's,
And how about Bakerville?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You can't have questions.
I appreciate the help. Can you, what I would, I'm gonna ask you a question if you don't mind.
No,
because
I'm gonna ask you another question because you sat here for too long anyway.
Okay.
Where's New Hartford School ranked in the state?
Where's New Hartford what?
Schools ranked, their school ranking.
Right.
You know, where's New Hartford ranked?
In regards to what?
Compared to elementary schools with the same capacity. You know, you hear Fairfield has 5 schools ranked in the upper state echelon. Where's New Hartford?
I don't know. We use a couple of different tools to help evaluate our performance against the benchmarks, but in terms of the rankings that are published by private companies, it's not really something that I am looking at on a regular basis.
There's different rankings that come out from the state, but sometimes it has to do with how much ECS money they're receiving, how much more money they're receiving in grants.
So where's New Hartford?
I don't know, because I look at those rankings, but I don't,
Okay,
that's something I
You
retain.
can only answer, student to ratio.
A month, sorry?
Teacher to ratio.
Right now, there's about 17 students, an average of 17 students to 1 teacher in a room.
Okay. And is the school library open at every school, every day?
No,
Why?
because we don't have a librarian fully staffed at every school every day. That's a shared resource across schools.
That person travels from school to school to school.
So
They're
they drive-
here, their
So they
librarian
drive
is,
from one school to the other?
That's true.
If they have an accident on their way driving to, say, this school, who picks up that cost?
I am not sure of that answer, but I will say that the librarian is not the only shared
Who
resource.
pays for the car driving back and forth?
The librarians are not the only human resources that travel from school to school within our district. We really try to keep our staff as efficient as possible, so they have to move between schools.
the librarian is here one day, they're at Bakerville one day, they're at Angelini 3 days.
I will add that we understand that if there's any consolidation, that would be alleviated, if that's your concern, right? Then you wouldn't have as much travel between the schools, if that's what your concern was.
It's the same travel time. You're going to work. Kristen Kasiba, 41 Zerlane.
I'm sorry, your street again?
Kristen Kasiba, 41 Zerlane.
Okay.
I just had a few questions.
Could you stand up here in front and talk that way, because that way they can hear you and the owl picks you up?
You had mentioned earlier that you would ask the board for funding for someone to take the public comment virtually. We're all here to save money. I don't think that that's probably the best thing to do. I was also wondering how, this is my first meeting, how the members of the task force were selected, the community members specifically.
Would you like me to address that?
Sure.
Yeah, so each of the boards, we designated a certain number from each of the boards, so each board had their own selection process. I don't know, Alicia, will you mind commenting on the Board of Selectmen?
Me and Mary Beth arm wrestled.
And they had that.
No, we have a 3-member board, so it was easy. So Mary Beth and I, we both wanted to be on the board. Dan Jerem, the first selectman, is in the audience. He can, opine at will. So that's how we decided.
And then Ben, do you mind commenting as the Board of Finance process?
I drew the short stick. We asked who was interested, and myself and our board chair were quite interested, I would say more interested than the rest.
And then for the Board of Ed, we did the same thing. Tim solicited interest from members of the Board of Ed. We all had to submit our names, and then we voted, the Board of Ed voted out of the people who volunteered there. For the community members, we solicited interest for community participation. That was publicized through the Board of Ed communication pieces. We had 3 people who actually came forward and expressed interest. We specified that we were looking for somebody who had children in schools right now and children who did not have schools right now. The only person who stepped forward with children with schools right now was Samantha, which was a delight. And then Carmen and another community member stepped forward for the non-parental students, and then the Board of Ed voted from there. And Carmen won that vote.
Also, how often will you be meeting with the outside firm? And would this be posted on the website? And anything that they give the task force, will that be like on the website as well? Any kind of documentation?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the website, it has the meeting schedule. Michelle will be here with us for almost all of the meetings that we have scheduled right now. If her work is done and we need to continue having meetings, that's where we would stop having her. I don't know under what circumstances those would be. I'm just putting that out there as a possibility. In terms of the materials that she is referencing, we will post them with the meeting minutes. Again, anything that relates to school security, that I need to just double check that shouldn't be made publicly available online. That's the only caveat I would make. Everything else I'm going to get online so that everybody can look at it.
Okay. And when the outside consultation firm is determined what needs to be corrected in costs, who are they sourcing to fix that? And like the price and stuff like that, is there bids for that? Are we able to see those bids and the pricing?
So we will give you a spreadsheet and itemize each of the things we're pointing out. We estimate that based on previous bids. As a last resort, we always use this book, RS Means. It's usually our last resort, but usually we have a good pulse on the market and we use those numbers. We do takeoffs the best we can. We've built 3D models of the schools so we can easily do that.
So they're not official bids.
Yes.
They're not official bids. They're not like contractors, that just to help guide us from a financial like ballparking perspective, as we all know, or most of us know, anything that when you actually start to do the work, some of those numbers can change. So that's something we cannot control. We can only work off of the data that we have. But
And just to add on to that, when we talk about renovations, additions, we're going to use standard square foot numbers that are pretty market based right now.
Okay.
Many
and
times you
then-
act as a contract administrator for projects going forward, so that's why you have expertise in what those costs are.
Okay. And then I just had a comment that the only concern about New Hartford Elementary is on a one-way. So I just want people to realize that you're gonna have traffic in the morning if you do consolidate to New Hartford Elementary. You're gonna have traffic going in the morning and in the afternoon. And then God forbid there was an emergency here, there's only one way in. So I just want to make note that everyone's aware of that because that's like a huge concern for me. And I also don't know if any neighbors are here, but if I lived around here, I would hate that. Especially leaving my driveway and coming home to buses and people lined up parking along the street, which would be chaotic. So that's just food for thought.
There's another way to come in here, though. You just come down to 19, take a right at the apartments, and you come down here.
You're supposed to have back and forth, please. Yeah, thank you. This is Lloyd.
Shelley Lloyd, 29 Pioneer Drive, New Hartford. I'm going to keep this brief. I was fortunate to work in the schools a couple times as a long-term sub. And I'm a speech and language pathologist. I traveled between the schools. So just to let you guys know that. Consolidation of the schools will alleviate some, if you chose to go in that direction, would alleviate some of that because you would have less places for people like me or the music teacher or the art teacher or the librarian or the phys ed teacher. These are all people, psychologists. These are all people who go from place to place. They have less places to go to. So that's just food for thought. When you do your cost estimates, I'm hoping that you will cost out the difference between things that just need to be replaced like toilets and things that have to be done because you have to bring things up to the current code. Because code requirements are this big and replacing a toilet just because it's old is Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we prioritize our spreadsheets. You'll see a number 1 is a code-driven item. Number 2 is like, do this, you need to do this within a year to 3, and we kind of space it out like that, so you'll be able to follow.
And number 5 is just,
We go,
it would be nice to have it.
we go up to 4, and 4 is usually a recommendation or something that is like 10 years out.
Or you can do without.
Yes, yeah, so some of the LED stuff would go in there.
Any other comments from the public tonight?
Wait, sorry, I just thought of one more thing. If you were to consolidate, would you be utilizing some of the, let's say, fixtures, if it was good at one school and put it in another, like reuse those resources? So for instance, you mentioned the toilet bowls. If you're putting another bathroom in at, you know, whether it's Bakerville or New Hartford, would you be utilizing those bowls that, you know?
I mean, not typically, but we can
Or
look
if
at
there was
that.
like light fixtures or anything like that, would you be able to reuse those resources instead of just scrapping them?
If there was something of value, yes. Typically, if it's a project that's under the state, we have to certify that these are good for 20 years, and if we can't use those.
Anything else? Yes,
Mr. Jarrell.
Dan Jerem, 535 Town Hill Road. Thank you for your dedication in doing this and your patience. I appreciate everything that you're doing. I had a couple thoughts. I appreciate the opportunity or the offering of the opportunity for public comment. I think that's a good thing. And I thought somebody mentioned it, but I wanted to reinforce it, that if it does become unwieldy, perhaps in the comments, you can text in the questions and they could all be read off at the end of the meeting and you could address it instead of having to monitor. You know, and I thought that that might be something that Kristen was just saying, well, maybe it's not cost effective to do it, but people could still be engaged and participate. And we want that. And so I think that might be a happy middle ground if in fact it becomes unwieldy. Second, well, with regard to Michelle and the population study, well, I don't know that they've contacted town hall for anything on development or anything in town, so I don't know if that's part of the process
It is.
how they would do that. Not that we have any developments planned or cooking right now, but I'll look into that because
Okay,
that's a
I will
curiosity for me. So lastly, with regard to somebody asking about capacities and stuff like that, there have been other study groups before, and there are reports, and they are in the town clerk's office in the second file cabinet on the right. And so, like for this school, and I think Michelle said 1954. I think you're spot on with that.
Okay, good.
So, there's places there, and if you need that information, I can help you dig it up, and we have good town clerks down there that can help you access that stuff. So I think it's great what you're doing. I think that sometimes this type of democracy and what John was saying about FOI can be a little bit cumbersome to get started, but I think you guys should be applauded for taking that patience to do it so that the rest of the process unfolds easier, and we'll all be better off for it. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
There's anybody's online.
Anyone else?
Just to note, 1 out of 7 people was able to keep it under 3 minutes, and that was possible.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, can you share your question, please?
Yeah, just a
Actually,
comment.
actually, can you repeat name and address? Because now we have the recording going.
Okay, yeah, Merritt Budney at 59 Cottage Street.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
It was, my only comment was, it was a little silly to someone, obviously I have access to my phone and can record it like it on my phone, and then to have kind of like a walkthrough of what the buildings were was a little silly then to like not also have the map. I totally get it. I don't necessarily want all that information out there, but it was basically mapped out for everyone, like what the school looks like inside of it. So that was just something that was interesting, something to think about if that is a concern, a safety concern.
She's coming to hear.
In short, the comment was around, it sounds like the amount of information that was shared here, although the map wasn't shared, the walkthrough was quite detailed, which gave a lot of that information. So I'm not sure if there's a question that was there.
There was earlier from a gentleman asking Mr. Carlson if we would be posting that layout that we had gotten, but.
That was, yeah.
Yeah, so she's just commenting on that, saying she understands.
I understand. We're doing the best we can. I'm gonna, again, go back to the superintendent and the chair of the Board of Ed to make sure that we are aligned on what information we are comfortable publicizing for all eternity on the internet. Anybody else virtually who wants to speak, they need to raise their hand, right? Yep, great.
To take a page from the Dan Jaren book, going once, going twice. We have a comment that follows up on that question from the same person.
Okay. Do you mind reading it?
Yeah.
Just for. Okay, got it. So
Okay.
just clarifying the question, written, the same content, no additional information. Anybody else online who wants to comment? Please use the raise your hand functionality.
Going once, going twice.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you all. For anybody who is online or elsewhere, if you have other thoughts you want to share, you can email the task force at nhtaskforce@newhtfd.org. That email will go to the entire task force. Those emails will also be included in public meeting minutes moving forward as communications to the task force. So just be aware of that. That is the process here. Team, we are almost done. Our next meeting will be held on March 11th, 2026 at 7 p.m. We'll be at Bakerville. The main focus of that meeting will be, Michelle will be walking us through the formal facility conditions presentation. I know we have some action items from here that I will summarize after this because my brain is very tired, but we've got some good notes on this. And that will be that. So I thank you all for your time. I will absolutely take a motion for adjournment. Everybody is in favor. We're going to get an aye. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate this. Have a good night.